Okay, so we do it again?
Yeah, hit this. Yep.
Yeah, well, okay. Big move. Big. The moose is loose. Big moves. Big. The moose is loose. Big moves. Big. The moose is loose. Big. I told you that people are waiting to be on your channel and Artie, for God's sake.
Maybe. But I told everybody last night and the night and last week that we were going to be here tonight, and here we are.
Only Fucko. Fucko's the only guy watching us.
There's one person watching. Dan, why did you fuck this up?
Yeah, I know.
People will start coming in. Give it a minute. Carl Crater from the War Game Boot Camp. So welcome everybody to the Slightly Challenged Show. But we are cooking now. Can I put this on share? Copy. Hold on. I'm putting this on Twitter and other places where people will tune in.
Holy cow. Look, it's He-Man.
Oh, David Thompson is here. David, thanks for joining.
Obviously, David, you're watching. You're in intelligence, for God's sake.
See, David was smart enough to listen to me when I said we're going to be on Dan's channel tomorrow. So
we should have David on. David, does he want to come on or what?
We should have David. This is up to you to work. I told you this was all you this week.
Hey, Dave, you want to come on? Come on.
We can send him the thing. So welcome everybody to the show. I am broadcasting live from Winterfest in Sandusky, Ohio. If you haven't checked out the Blockbuster show that we did live last night from here, do that. It's on the channel already. So,
William,
filled with excitement and drama.
Chet.
So Dan can't. Yeah, David can't.
He's hanging with the farm. Yeah,
that's strangely enough. That's a higher priority. I'm not sure why someone would choose to hang out with their family instead of you and I, but
he's the perfect husband. I married a guy. He doesn't tell you anything, and he shuts up, and he's always around.
But he gets up at 4 in the morning.
Ah, Christ!
So that's got to be very disruptive.
Well,
so my big news is that I got a call at 1 in the morning last night. The dog got back home. The dog got sprayed by a skunk. So wife is at home dealing with that. So, and for those who didn't catch it, on Beyond Solitaire podcast and YouTube channel, we had a little sit down with Liz Davidson, presumably because she ran out of important people to talk to. So she talked to me.
Hey, how come she isn't part of the gang of the CSRs?
She's on the nominating committee.
Okay, good. Okay.
So yeah, we got that covered. Dan, get with the program.
Sorry, man. I'm just a video guy.
Yeah, we're having fun here. I'm playing Vakdam Ride. I'm playing the Germans in the South, German 7th Army. It's a fluid situation that's developed in an interesting way, but it's still competitive. We've been playing. Is this day? I don't even know what day it is. It's Tuesday, right? So we've been playing Tuesday, Monday, Sunday, Saturday. Yeah. So we've been playing 4 days. We've been reliably getting 4 turns a day done. Robert Carroll, KilRoy of KilRoy was here. He is here. It's moving well for such a big and complicated game. You might be surprised how fast it moves.
Yeah, it looks like it's moving real fast.
Plenty of little things to forget too. Don't get me wrong. And that has occurred on numerous occasions. Fortunately, not in a game-busting type of way. So,
before we went live, I was asking Artie all these questions on what time he goes to bed when he's there. He said 3 o'clock. What time does he get up in the morning? I figured he'd get up at like 12, 1, 2. He says no, he gets up at 8 o'clock in the morning to play games again.
No, we get up at 7, so I can play games at 8.
And I'm just
More
saying,
incoherent play you've never seen. Let me tell
who
you.
the hell else does that? Is it just you and those crazies behind you?
Yeah,
Because how
pretty
the
much.
hell do you do it?
Pretty much. Don't ask me how we do it. I am as baffled as anybody on this, Dan. So I mean, I'm not getting up at 4 a.m. to design games. Don't get me wrong. So
Yeah, but what's the diff?
So, well, that's what it is. We're here to play, right? So why not maximize the opportunity to play rather than farting around all
Yeah,
day?
but you have a
Now,
life.
it's not
You
like
have a
there's
life
no.
to come back home to.
It's not like there's no downtime, right? It's going to take them an hour and a half to do their turn. In fact, they are, still going at it back there. I think they
So, like,
started.
what are you doing? What do you do in your
30
downtime
minutes ago.
normally?
Play other games. Although yesterday I took a nap and I went down hard. It's like, what? I completely incoherent when I got back up. So
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't work for me. I'd have the shakes, man. I really would.
I'm running on 4 hours of sleep a night and lots of caffeinated beverages. So, and we managed to get a live stream out last night. And we're hopefully right after this, we're going to pivot into a recorded video that will be up later, where we'll be a little less dependent on the vagaries of the live streaming upstream bandwidth here at the fabulous Best Western Hotel and Resort in Sandusky, Ohio. So anybody that was on that managed to endure last year's live from Winterfest stream can attest to how terrible the technical conditions were.
And how's the weather out there, for God's sake, man?
It is 43 right now and quite windy, so it feels pretty cold.
Ah, okay, so it doesn't smell like an armpit area where you are then.
No, I'm not really noticing a particular gamerific aroma around here, so it's not bad at all.
You see? Look, you see? Huh?
Yeah, no, honestly, I'm more let down by the whole dog situation than anything else at this point. I can always drink more coffee at 8 p.m. like last night, for example.
Here's another con guy.
The legendary STUKAJOE is here. Joe, thanks for stopping by.
This guy doesn't even go to bed. He travels to other countries to play games and stays up all night and makes
there
videos.
you go. That's
Jesus
motivated
Christ.
people. That's motivated people. That's what happens when you make marijuana illegal, Dan.
I don't smoke.
So yeah, they went out to dinner actually. Stacking Limit says we should have Doug from the Tabletop's Edge on all the time, and I'd be delighted to. But they went to dinner and they're not back yet. So
look, I asked this guy to come on the show this and this night. He's never available. He's always with his wife picking mushrooms. Jesus Christ! And now he shows up. And look, Volko, who loves you? You know what I'm saying? God,
who loves you, baby? What is he, Kojak?
I don't know. Try to have the guy on. I asked him to be my date because
I'm gonna
Tuesday was Valentine's Day.
That's not creepy.
And he said, "Nah, I'm with my wife."
Yeah, I would have said, "Well, that's what I was doing, right? You got to build up that karma, right?"
Look.
I'm just saying, yeah. What a fine, upstanding family man he is. An excellent, well groomed too. I mean,
does your wife adore you like these people adore you over here? No.
The Kojak of wargaming. I'm not seeing that. I gotta tell you, I could see it was Donald Sutherland's character from Kelly's Heroes of wargaming. That I'll buy.
Hey, look, Carl, you were my first thought. I just went through a roster. Don't worry about it.
Well, clearly he's not the first in alphabetical order. Sergeant Oddball. He's the Sergeant. Dan is the Sergeant Oddball of wargaming.
Look at this guy.
There you go. See, look, I don't blame him. Hey,
Volko.
Hanging out with us. That's just kooky. You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying? You're whipped.
Deanna's a mix of Kojak and Colonel Sanders. Gotta love that. Colonel, that's that ridiculous facial hair you got.
Oh, Jesus.
Major Oddball, 79. I don't know. That doesn't sound too bad, actually, to be honest. Texas Roadhouse. The food's okay, and it's certainly not the most expensive place you could possibly go.
What is that, Texas Roadhouse?
It's a restaurant that's in Ohio.
Is it good?
It's okay.
Is it 79 American dollars good?
For 2 people and a couple of drinks, that sounds about
Oh
right.
no, that's cheap as hell.
Yeah, well, 79 Canadian dollars. That's like $1.99.
Yeah,
So,
you're not gonna get shit for
in
your
actual money. So, just because we're remote tonight, folks, doesn't mean we're not going to make fun of Canada. So,
no. Can't look. We saw the weather balloons too. I mean
you see,
the Chinese
some of those
balloons.
are probably Canadian weather balloons too.
We saw the balloons first.
Did you guys shoot any balloons down this week?
Man, no, we have to ask you guys.
So yeah, we took care of it for you. You're welcome. You're welcome, Canada.
That's okay.
So, everybody's doing great here. You know, like I said, we've been at this since a lot of these guys have been here since Friday. So, you know, we're not exactly just starting the games here, right? And it's mostly big games. The centerpiece of this event is always the big game. So we got this big thing right here that you're looking at, that big thing that is 60 inches by 13 feet or something like that. OCS Ostfront. That's 3 games put together.
Do they build those tables?
They literally built those. This is a new development, but they've had issues using folding tables before, where the tables just like somebody will kick the table or something, it'll slide, and the maps will slide under the plexiglass, and that actually wrecked a game a couple of years ago. So this year they've got these giant tables that are wood screwed together. They're not going anywhere. They literally built them on site, and presumably they're going to be breaking them down and taking them home. I took measurements so I could replicate that technology at home.
Wood's expensive, man. Did they charge you extra this year to go, or what, man?
That was not on me. I did not. That didn't come out of my budget. So I'm a happy guy.
I'll tell you, wood's expensive. I'm redoing my house. Wood's expensive, okay?
Wood is expensive. Certain kinds of wood, especially. But I'm aware that the price of various commodities is off the hook.
I live in Canada. It's all woods.
I'd like the audience to tell us how my audio is. I expect some background noise, right?
For God's sake.
Well, sometimes I think my audio is good, and then when I listen to the show afterwards, it's like, and you're coming in screaming. So
I'm always screaming, Artie.
I know he's hyper. I don't know what's in that can, but it ain't caffeine.
Actually, no, I'm having a harp.
Harp. I'd hate to harp on you about that.
You know that's hilarious. And
not especially, no.
Let me tell you something, Artie. This is what happened at work. I was reprimanded last week, okay?
Oh dear.
Did I tell you about it?
Is this where you called your boss a fuckface?
No, but I was close to doing it but anyways, I smoke a pipe, right? Everybody knows in the place I smoke a pipe. But I said, after a good meal, there's nothing better than a pipe. But if you say that in French, a pipe, in pip, a pip means a sexual act.
Did you say it in French?
Huh?
Did you say it in French?
Yeah, I said in French.
Okay, so it's a French nursing home.
Yeah, so the director was there.
Wasn't clear on that.
The director was there, and
what did the director say?
The director mentioned it to my boss, and my boss came up to me and said, Dan, you said something really derogatory there. You said, you know, it's après un repas, une bonne pipe. Like, basically, I said a good blowjob. But that's not what I meant, you sex fiend of a director. So I
can't help it if you're working with a bunch of perverts, Dan.
God damn.
So I bet they don't let you to smoke the pip in the building either.
No, they hate me over there.
I bet they do.
They hate me.
So we love you over here, Dan.
That's all.
If you were here, I'd give you a big hug right now.
Oh, God,
and it wouldn't be weird at all.
No, it wouldn't be weird. Where's STUKAJOE? Stuka, you want to be on? Joe.
STUKAJOE is here.
Come on, Joe. You want to be on?
There. He hasn't mentioned anything.
Come on, you were at BioTechCon. You could talk to us too about BioTechCon.
Okay. So we can. Well, that's a good point. We should have planned this out in advance, and maybe we could have got this done. Dan swears too much. I've been swearing a lot while I'm here.
Where do I swear too much?
Only on my channel. So on your channel, you're extremely well behaved.
What did I say?
You talked about your pip.
I said a blowjob.
Right.
Well,
Good
what's
thing we're not on
swearing
my
about
channel.
that?
We're going to be on Dan's channel from now on, folks, and then Dan can talk with this kind of salty language all he wants.
Oh my God! Hey, Joe, Joe, do I send you the link or what? Get Katsamo, eh?
So anyway, there's some interesting looking games on here. They played Black Orchestra last night. They played twice, and they won once and they lost once. It seemed pretty
Is
cool.
that fun? Is that fun?
I wasn't in the game, but it was played last night. There right now we got Vakdam Ryan, we got the big Ostfront game, we got another OCS game that is the that's I'm not sure what the angle's like here. The big table is pretty much behind my head. This is a smaller custom built OCS table that's running Forgotten Battles, which is pretty close now. We may see a pre-order on that before the end of the year. So, and hopefully we'll have a convo with Tony and Dean and the guys just after this. We'll see if that works. So, what else is going? There's a game of Holland 44 running. They're kind of doing like a Mark Simonich marathon down there. They did Ukraine, Stalingrad 42, which took a couple of days. And they did, they're doing Holland 44, which is a terrific game, by the way. What else is going on here? We've got a Antietam game. We've got an Empires at Arms like side thing that hasn't really taken off yet. We've got a game of Iron Curtain that just got getting started. And a couple other things as well. So we're having a good time. It's just we're all a little tired at this point in the week. That's all.
Oh God, man! And who dared bring Black Orchestra to a monster game convention?
Oh, might be surprised. Although, like the little light side games we tend to be things like Starfleet Battles, or Flat Top, something, or Empires in Arms, or something like that. So, somebody brought it and some people played it, and they they apparently enjoyed it. So. And I'd even call Stalingrad 42 a somewhat of a monster. I mean, it did take him 3 days to play it, so it's not that small.
Stalingrad 42, a Simonich game.
Yes, I just told you they're doing a Simonich marathon down there.
Oh, sorry.
And after Holland 44, which I imagine they might finish that tonight, they're going to bust something else out. Don't know what it'll be. But yeah, it's pretty traditional for us to play a game of Starfleet Battles here. If you're interested in the topic of Iron Curtain, the whole Cold War gone hot thing, it's hard to find a better value package with that, this huge sandbox you got to play with in that game. Now, I'm not that hot on that topic, especially at that scale. So I had it for a little while, and then I ended up giving it away. But but I mean, it's a nice game. If you have a particular interest in that topic, then it's something you ought to look at. As far as I can tell, it's still in print.
Who did that? The Iron Curtain.
Multi-man. It's a SCS game.
A strategic combat series.
Standard combat series. Some of them, I wouldn't call any of them strategic, to be honest about it. I'd call them operational.
Standard. All right.
But Dean's behind me. He can argue with me if he wants. So. Or tactical, in some cases tactical, actually. So John Longshore setting up a new computer. Yeah, I decided I wasn't doing that anymore, building my own computers. It's not worth, for the $100 I'll save, it ain't worth my time.
Now we're in Canada here. Swearing's cheaper.
That's true. But that's it. Will GM for Food places his or her Kickstarter order for a Battle for the Balkans from Compass. And got Battle for Germany errata counters. Did they make the errata counters available separately, I wonder? Because Compass usually does do that. But I'm not sure series-wise if that's a thing that I've seen before. I know certainly Multi-Man tends to put errata counters in like the next game in the series. But yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is why that's such a cool game, actually, because it's got like a whole bunch of different scenarios that are either right after the war or shortly after the war, 10 years after the war or whatever, all the way up to the 80s. So it's a pretty cool game. Why? So Joe, I did a sort of meticulous test of walking around the room with the laptop, and I got about 5 megabits per second. Was the best I got in this room, in this very spot. And hilariously, the spot from which we tried to do this stuff last year, where it was a total disaster, was probably 10 feet that way. But there's like a wall, some equipment, a furnace and stuff in there, and that may have interfered with it, or maybe they put another access point up. I don't know. I did at no point did I get more than 5 megabits per second though. And that's enough for 720 if it holds stable, and apparently it did.
You're not at 720 right now.
I'm at 7. I am at 720 right now.
That looks pretty good.
Well, yeah, because I have the finest equipment over here.
Finest.
Yeah, not exactly, but I do have the good microphone with me. So I've got a travel microphone. So one of the other things that we do here, it's kind of a Winterfest tradition, is there's a TV and they plug a DVD player into or whatever into it and run war movies all weekend. And right now it looks like they got Zulu on again. They showed it a couple days ago and it's going again. Certain movies get repeat viewings.
You know, I've never seen that movie, man.
I actually haven't either. It's supposed to be very good.
Did you watch the new All Quiet on the West? All Quiet on the Western
Front? I have not. No, I have
not.
Oh
my God!
I haven't had like 3 hours to sit in front of the computer, so that's not work.
The thing is, the ending was for me. I guess it could have been. I didn't like the ending, but what a movie! What a movie!
No, I don't know. Did you want a happy ending or something? Where they all run away over the rainbow or something? I'm just
no.
wondering.
I just look. That's just my opinion.
I've heard good things about it. I've heard bad things about it too. So I'll make up my own mind whenever I watch it. William Aarons asks, "Do all the games have to be multi-map with a large number of counters and components?" So not technically, but that is historically been the focus of Winterfest, is to do big monster games with people we know and like to hang out with for a week. And not everybody's putting in 17-hour days either. So
yeah, no, I would do 2.5 hours and then it's like, okay.
Did I know this? Maybe I forget. Joe's got 17 at Wojennik. Well, I assume they have better internet in Spain than we have here in Ohio, which is not an incredibly high bar to limbo your way.
They got better anything in Spain than they have in Ohio.
So Tim Zales looks like he didn't like the new All Quiet on the Western Front. I don't know if maybe that's not the way to take that statement. I don't expect it to be a cheerful movie. If I want that, I'll watch The Wizard of Oz or something.
Yeah, no, it's not cheerful at all.
So Zulu breakout role for Michael Caine, sure, absolutely. They've been also running the old The World at War, that old documentary, BBC documentary narrated by Laurence Olivier, which is really pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of dated because it was made in like the late 60s or early 70s, but it's pretty amazing some of the footage that they captured in that thing. So and it's got a lot, right? They cover a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily get a lot of attention here in the American educational system, like the Winter War, for instance. There's like a whole segment on that. I'm getting kind of tired. I might have to have some coffee.
You're getting tired, already?
Yeah, a little bit.
No, really? Why don't you play another 27 hours of games? Come on.
I think that might be a great idea.
Jesus. I mean, come on.
The Lost Italian, I've heard good things about that too, as mentioned by Meandering Mike. So
now look at that. West Coast Games. I don't know why he changed his name.
So he could have a YouTube channel and be an internet superstar with an online empire like us. Remember? Keep telling you this.
God.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. That's unfortunate. So there are like places in Scotland where like 60% of the male population never came back from World War One.
Hold on a second. Will GM for food? He can't be serious.
Oh, I imagine he is. I mean, if we're talking about the American educational system, I don't find that surprising in any way.
I no.
So
No.
now he is saying World War One, right? Where Japan was one of the allies in World War One. So
were they?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, they were.
Come on, man.
And they felt
Really?
stiffed by the Allies because they didn't get all the stuff they wanted. They did not, nor did they get at the full seat at the table. There's a lot of complicated reasons for evolution of the Japanese position up to World War II.
Look that is
surely a factor. But
so that's where the animosity started.
This is kind of true. I mean, it was not altruistic for Japan supporting the Allies and actually invading some German territories that were in the Pacific as well.
I got to read up on that. Well, read up. What am I going to read? I got to do something about this, looking up Japan World War One, man.
Yep, afraid so. And, there's games on that too, right? Empire at Sunrise from HOLLANDSPIELE.
No way.
Japan versus Germany in World War One. A fascinating looking game too.
So I'm assuming that's where the animosity with the States started in World War One, man.
I wouldn't say that. I would imagine the Boxer Rebellion may have had something to, the aftermath of the Boxer Rebellion, which Japan also participated in. Basically, every colonizing power, which Japan sure wanted to be, participated in that. So I mean, these are not single cause events, right? There's a whole cavalcade of things that went into that.
What was Japan being opportunistic about in World War One? What the hell did they have?
The Germans had a variety of possessions that they thought they would just take for themselves.
Oh.
In the Pacific, that is. I mean, they didn't really go after German East Africa, for example. This is true, although Japan is not, in fact, a seat at the table. And let's also mention that there's a co-designer, Jeff Engelstein, on that as well. I don't want to shortchange Jeff Engelstein as much as that's a good game, by the way. But it is a Jeff Engelstein and Mark Herman production, and it is covered. But they're like the major powers that are in the negotiations do not include Japan, as they historically did not. So.
Look at what Eric Burns saying. Japan wanted territory in World War One.
Right.
But just like that, I want that.
Well, it was there, and it was like, well, hell, everybody's mad at the Germans now. I bet I could get away with just snatching this up. So there we go.
Jesus, man.
So, and there's some truth to this too. Again, these are multi-dimensional decisions that get made, but this is absolutely a factor. Italy and Austria are historical rivals pretty much since the foundation of Italy as a unified Italy, right?
Yeah.
As Dan will know, since he loves to drink the blood of the Austrians.
No, the Austrians they're good chaps, man.
The Austrians are fine fellows, I'm sure.
This is really news to me. Japan World War One. Freak me out.
World War One. Not only do you have look at fatal alliances. Not only do you have counters for Japan in fatal alliances, you have counters for China too, just in case they get involved. I mean, it's a world war, right? They don't call it a world war because they were only fighting in Belgium.
No, West Coast games. God damn it. Does that piss you off? Nah. I'm coming to your house. Your house is my house now.
Exactly.
That's all.
Fighting over the Tyrol.
Plus, you guys make good cheese too.
Right. So, I mean, there were concessions, but Italy didn't get everything they wanted either, right? I mean, it's not like Well, I mean, you got to think they sucked away some Austrian manpower from somewhere else that may have been able to use it more, right? And there was a long, bloody campaign over the campaigns, I guess, over the Isonzo River, for example, between Italy and Austria-Hungary.
What he thought Italy got Trieste from Avalon Hill?
I believe he means Austria-Hungary.
I know. Okay.
Of course you do. Certain. There you go. They almost overdubbed him for that. They overdubbed some other people. They overdubbed Jerry Lopez as Subutai, for example, because Jerry Lopez was just like one of John Milius's surfing buddies. So they got I forget the actor's name, Sab Shimono to overdub him. And I always loved Subutai. Subutai was awesome. So that whole little thing where around the campfire where they're talking about whose God is better. That's a great memorable conversation. So I'm pretty sure I could recite the screenplay in real time.
Oh my God, whose God is better? That just freaks me out. Our God is better.
There you go. ID Jester's giving us the Wikipedia entry on Japan's participation in World War I. So I think it's safe to say that the cream of the Imperial German Navy was in fact not in the Pacific. So that's a factor. So, and in fact, that's all really minor stuff. I mean, German possessions in the Pacific were not awesome. Oh, of course, right? I mean, it goes without saying that they said this without saying.
I mean, it's a hell of a ways from Germany to Japan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say, like, what lane were they trying to secure? What the hell is Germany doing in Japan?
There's a bunch of islands over there. I don't know that the Germans did anything specifically. We've already covered this. I don't know that the Germans specifically did anything to anger the Japanese, but the Japanese saw an opportunity to grab some territory, which is a bunch of random islands in the Pacific, and they did. Yes, in fact, this is the game I mentioned, Empire at Sunrise. It's actually really interesting. I haven't had a chance to play it, but it's really interesting. I believe it's a John Gorkowski design, if I'm remembering that correctly. With a telescoping map scale. So you can kind of zoom all the way out to get the entire Pacific and all the way in to get that little area off the coast that they actually fought the battle over. So it's a pretty neat looking game. And as you know, you kind of expect fresh looks at stuff and sometimes fresh topics from HOLLANDSPIELE. So I have never had Tsingtao.
I just had it a few days ago.
Well, good for you. I've never had it.
It's a Union lager. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I imagine it doesn't, I don't know. I've never had it, so I shouldn't talk. I will say that, you know, at one point, at least, American beer was dominated by the big macro breweries, your Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, and Miller, and Coors, and all that.
That's what Tsingtao is.
And if you go to Mexico, the beer is way better.
Like the Corona is better in Mexico?
No, they don't. I never once did I see. I was in Mexico for 2.5 months. I didn't see Corona once.
Really?
Not once. I saw Tecate from time to time, but no, they would drink Modelo where I was at.
Okay, yeah. I just had some Modelo last week, but by the way.
Yeah, so we'll do some talk about OCS specifically and the products in the works. We really just began to talk about, not even began, just we kind of glossed over that last night's show because I didn't want to tie any individual down for an hour. But we're going to do that here pretty soon, actually. So we'll unearth those secrets when we are able to. I believe so. Yep. Rabaul, which was a big sort of fortress port airfield in World War II.
And he says World War I here.
Yes, they got it in World War I.
No way.
Yes. So William Aaron says the way to play GMT's Barbarossa once. All 28 maps are available. We start with maps A and B from the. So do you mean the 3 games, the 2 additional games that are on pre-order right now? Or do you mean the mythical 1942 Stalingrad games that aren't out? And I'm my confidence that they'll ever be out is a bit low. Nor am I quite sure what the suggestion here is. If you're just going to like play the games individually and like play them north to south, you can certainly do that. Nothing wrong with that idea. Or do we mean put them all together and try and play them all together, which some people have done. I think there's some integration problems between them that people start uncovering that aren't necessarily super duper obvious. They start uncovering once they start playing them together. But that's one of the things that the new editions are supposed to rectify.
Are there really 28 maps in the Barbarossa series in GMT?
I don't know, but those games tend to have pretty big map areas, right? So I believe Kiev to Rostov is 4 or 5 maps. Crimea is only 1. It's by far the smallest. But Army Group North, Army Group South, Army Group Center, Typhoon, I think those are all 4 map games.
And how well are they received? How well are they received?
That was a very popular series for a while, and I frankly think it lost a lot of steam because nothing came out for it for like 15 years. So, but it's a well-regarded series. It was very popular. It was a mainstay of GMT for a long time. Will GM for Food asks if anybody's trying to connect the GCACW game. So we've seen some GCACW kind of handed around here as you're just looking at the box, but nobody's playing it this year. It has happened here before. There are campaigns like Long Roads to Gettysburg, Long Roads to Antietam, that kind of stuff. Where you can link multiple GCACW series. And I've actually played Long Roads to Antietam, and it's great. There isn't really a campaign, nor really should there be, to necessarily put like all the games together. But up to a point, you could totally do that, right? You could put Long Roads to Gettysburg on the table, and that's something like 6 maps. So it's a lot.
Who's the designer for the Barbarossa series?
Vance von Voorhees.
Really, eh? What an undertaking.
Well, yeah, that's why it ain't getting done. So, I mean, all the games have been out, right? So it's not like it's new. But we've also got, a years, decades even long delay on that like second round of games that's going to cover the section to the east in 1942 and maybe 1943. Kiev to Rostov and Crimea both stretch into 42 a little bit. But the other games, I'm doing this from memory, so don't quote, please correct me if this is wrong. I want to say that I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry, it's been a long week.
But Artie, the Barbarossa series, I'm going to call it the series that starts on day 1, I guess, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It pretty much does. So, and it's very similar scale-wise to OCS. The map scale is exactly the same, and the unit scale is not quite exactly the same, but it's very close. This is actually 100% accurate. So this actually happened. So you've got the maps for this, but you don't necessarily have all the units. On the other hand, because we don't have Fredericksburg, we don't have economics for Fredericksburg, for example. And there should be some differences between that and say Chancellorsville and Gettysburg. You'd also have to go back to the old Avalon Hill games because we don't have a new edition of Stonewall's Last Battle. So this is also true. I wouldn't necessarily say there's a lot of small scenarios, but there's a good selection of scenarios that are good, right? You're not necessarily tying yourself down with this giant 5-map monstrosity. So, John, I'll have you know I just bought a giant set of Europa maps. So it's going to be an extra set of maps that's going to be a huge, basically a duplicate of all the other stuff, including a couple I don't have already.
Artie, I'm curious with the Barbarossa series. Now, when you start playing the game, day 1, basically you have Germany entering the USSR. The USSR, well, they were taken by surprise, but not really. But where's the setup for the USSR? It's like there's no setup.
I want to say that the setup is fixed. I could be misremembering this too. It's been a while, and there's been a lot of games that I've looked at since I've last looked at one of those to like set it up and try to play it. I want to say the setup is pretty much fixed. are at least mostly fixed. So a given unit sets up in a given hex. There are some special conditions that apply in the first few turns of the campaign, but a lot of the asymmetry between the Germans and the Soviets in the game is modeled with an asymmetric sequence of play. The Soviet sequence of play is just less efficient than the German sequence of play is. So it's a really interesting system in that regard. And there are some predecessors who did that before. Vance is actually one of them with his East Front Battles series from 3W, which was continued by Joe Youst, but I believe only 2 of them ever came out. I think the first one might have been called East Front Battles. The other one's Spires of the Kremlin, which are pretty interesting looking games. Kind of gives you the sense of what kind of basis Vance was building that Barbarossa series on.
And would you say this is a serious simulation?
That's a little bit of a loaded question as far as simulation is concerned, but I mean, I think it's certainly it's a pretty hardcore hexagon war game, if that's what you're asking.
I don't know. Well, yeah.
So one thing you don't have though is rules, and some of this is kind of juried in there in the campaign rules, but what you don't really have is kind of rules for handling things between campaigns. There are like lull rules in, at least in Atlanta's ours. But like, you know, how do replacements come in? How does that work? Is it just on a schedule? These are kind of open questions that there's just not any official support for. So you could do it, but you would have to do some of the work yourself. Yeah, Abraxas MF mentions that they're setup cards, which are really, really great. Vance has, generally speaking, always been good about including setup cards with his games, and all the Barbarossa games have setup cards. So I feel like that makes setup a lot easier. So I suspect that if you were going to try and play these together, then, so we're talking 3 games: Army Group, Barbarossa, Army Group North, South, and Center, right? So I think the natural way to play that is do it at a convention where you got 9 days to do it, and then get teams going, right? My thought is that you could easily accommodate 6 players per team on that.
I was going to
You
say
had 12 people on it. You had Crimea on it. I'd put 2 more people. Which you may or may not want to use Crimea because it doesn't run all the way to the end of the rest of it doesn't run all the way to the end of Crimea. And if you use even Operation Typhoon isn't quite on the maps, right? The Barbarossa Army Group Center maps. So, which is why if you look at Typhoon, which I have really heard I know there's a vague idea that they're going to redo that too, but I haven't heard anything about it. So as far as where they are. So John mentions that OCS and GDW's Fire in the East and Scorched Earth fill that niche. So, you know, as somebody who plans to play Fire in the East and Scorched Earth, probably next year is my thought about it. Well, we haven't really discussed any plan. I feel like Europe is quite a different scale than East Front series. And yet OCS has some obvious inspirations from Europa too, right? So I'm very reluctant to put those in the same category because of the scale. The unit scale is almost exactly the same though, but the difference to me is that the scale modeling in either EFS or OCS is way better and smarter than it is in Europa, which is a huge problem that they created for themselves in 1974. This is true. There are good vassal modules for EFS. Europa, you're a bit rolling the dice. Those some of them are okay, some of them are not very good. So there you go. I mean, everybody's going to make this decision for themselves. There are plenty of people who don't like EFS because of soak-off attacks or whatever other reason, or the supply rules. There are plenty of people who don't like OCS because of the surprise rule or the fact that you're tracking supply counters on the map. So, you know, everybody gets to make this decision for themselves. And then there's Frank Chadwick's Thunder in the East, which a lot of people, I think, felt. I don't know that I've heard Frank say this. Oh, Jesus. That it was at least a spiritual successor to. It's like a monkey show over there. to Europa, right? It was an attempt to kind of do Europa right. We'll see if they come through with that, right? We got to see more than one game in the series for us to even begin to start evaluating it in that way. So there's a Battle for Moscow scenario called Battle for Moscow 2, I believe, that you can play out of Thunder in the East. But that's not in the box. I want to say that's like a download from somewhere. So,
Hey, Artie, I wanted to ask you about Chadwick's Thunder in the East. Is that well regarded?
I feel like it's gotten a bit of a mixed reception. I think there was a lot of excitement about it, and some of that excitement is still around. But a lot of that excitement was generated by this ambitious plan to cover the whole war at that scale, and none of that rest of that material has materialized yet. So it's a little bit hard to say. Now, we tried to play it and screwed some things up pretty badly. Let me put it that way. So I'm reluctant to say that we gave it quite a fair shake. But I will say that you might think that the components are really high quality. If so, you will be mistaken for the most part. The counters are, in fact, very shiny, like literally shiny, but they are, in fact, very low quality. They will delaminate at the fart of an ant. The rule book, I have never seen a rule book that's actually been used at the table that is not falling apart. That is a bad choice of a perfect bound rule book for a war game product. The maps are very nice. I also feel like the bizarre array of different counter shapes and sizes creates a lot of visual noise that you then have to get through to actually parse the information that the game is giving you. I am not necessarily a fan of that. Had they stuck to HQs or circles, there's 3 sizes of units that are represented by 3 sizes of counters. I could have lived with that, but there's like little arrow counters and ship counters that are rectangular, and it's kind of a lot. It's kind of and then the air counters are like a different size than everything else. I found it visually confusing.
I don't know, man. Having all those little different type counters makes it more visually focusing. No,
Does it? I don't think so. I didn't think so when we were trying to play it. In fact, there's nothing wrong with that any of that necessarily. Although I don't like the fact that the counters fall apart. But you know, it just to me I found it overdone in from a presentation standpoint. None of that presentational stuff is really built into the game. That's just something they decided to do. And I mean, artistically, it's good, right? The counter art's good, the map art's good, the box is a little cartoony, but you know, it's not unlike any number of period propaganda posters you might see. Yes, but the thing is that Bandits and Tomahawks doesn't have like 9 different shapes and sizes of counters, right? So I'm not saying you got to have half-inch counters and that's it. You're never allowed to have anything else. But you have like square counters and round counters and rectangular counters and rhomboid counters and triangle counters. It just kind of becomes a mess.
talking about bayonet.
That carries some weight, right? Frank's got a lot of great designs that have occurred over the years.
Well, talking about bayonets and tomahawks, I just interviewed Mark Rodrigue.
I saw that. And a handsome individual he is.
Isn't he a handsome Quebecer? Huh?
I'm just saying. This picture came up, and I'm like, whoa, look at this dude. Jeez.
Yeah, nice guy, super nice guy.
This guy could be an underwear model. I think. So I think there's some truth to what Meandering Mike is saying here. However, I think the reason why that's the case is because what they didn't play test, or they like definitively didn't play test, is how that's going to integrate with the other parts of that system. And then when they tried to do that when working on the Middle Sea, they found that there were a lot of problems. They should have thought of that, but they didn't. And we have a rule book that's been, what you could justifiably call a whole new game that some people are calling Twilight in the East or Thunder in the East 2, but which there's been no official acknowledgement that that's going to be a thing that comes out. You just have to like print your own materials. So not that I've seen anyway. So Bill Jam for Food says Frank is responsible for military career. Joined the National Guard to make Twilight 2000 campaign more realistic. That's pretty hardcore Twilight 2000 refereeing right there. I got to say that I'm going to join the army just to make my Twilight 2000 campaign better. That's
That's
hardcore.
hardcore.
Yeah. So
wasn't Victory Games on their way out when they were doing Thunder in the East? I think that was the last game.
Victory Point Games. Okay,
Right.
so I didn't really have that sense. I mean, they didn't just like go under. They sold the company to whoever that was, and
Right.
whoever that was just didn't care about war games, right? So I do kind of feel like that was like the Kickstarter. They're obligated to do it, right? The buyer of the company is going to be responsible for the legal liabilities of the previous company. So they kind of had to do it, but it was kind of the last board gaming gasp of Victory Point Games. So last I heard, and it's been a while since I've checked this, I'll be happy to be corrected. Twilight in the East is Thunder in the East is still available from GMT. I could be wrong. Maybe they sold out of it now. There you go. Tabletop Tycoons.
Yeah.
And what the scuttlebutt on that was they just cared about Nemo's War and not about any of the other stuff.
That's
now,
right.
A lot of the other stuff has gone to get passed on to other publishers, right? I mean, the Decision's going to be doing the Napoleonic 20 series. A lot of the States of Siege games have gone off to their individual designers, and Thunder in the East has gone back to Frank, and then they made a deal with GMT to publish future volumes in the series. I don't have faith in the print house, whoever it was. I don't know who it was that Victory Point Games used to print Thunder in the East. I would be just as happy, in fact, happier to see just have GMT set that up and just do it through GMT's printer.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
I don't see why not. GMT will be able to get a better rate than Alan Emmert will, I would think.
That's true.
Right, because they do a lot of other business with those people.
Yeah.
So
I know Worthington took us as a State of Siege game. What was it? The Boxer one there.
The Boxer one.
The Boxer Rebellion.
Okay.
And they also did the Soviet uprising there.
Soviet Dawn. Yeah, I've got that. I've played that. That's a very good game.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, assuming you like the States of Siege mechanic, which I think is perfectly serviceable mechanic for a solitaire game. So I can verify that GMT did not handle the printing of Thunder in the East. So I picked up a copy of funny story. I sold my copy of 1914 Offensive à Outrance, Mike Resch's game from GMT a few years ago. And I just bought it back from the same person that I sold it to. Because it's got the expansion in it, which came in a C3I. I've got the C3I, but I put the expansion in the box and sold it with the game. And I wanted the expansion. It's not important, really, but I wanted it. And the thing's in exactly the same condition as it was when I handed it over a few years ago. So, mostly punched, in fact. So, but the Crisis 2020. I don't know that I've heard of that one. I've got a couple things from Victory Point Games, but not a lot. That Napoleonic 20 series is well liked, and
yeah,
I know Decision. I just don't know where Decision is with it. Right, they're going to put it in a fancy packaging. That's all I know.
I don't see Decision handling that game.
Well, it's on their webpage, so apparently we were not consulting.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem to be part of their catalog.
I mean, I think I see what you're saying, but because it is kind of a different kind of thing that Decision Games is known for. But that said, they've also they're trying to branch out with things like Bleeding Kansas. I almost said Bleeding Canvas for some reason, which would be a completely different product entirely. No, you're talking about the Eagle of Lil expansion. That is for Bloody April, which I don't own, so I'm obviously not buying that. But the expansion I'm talking about is the Lil expansion that appeared in C3I. And I can, I can just go buy the C3i for $80. Or I could just, but nobody's selling the expansion by itself. I know people give that stuff away, but I, don't want to hang around asking people for it either. Fading Glory is another one actually that came out of Victory Point Games. It's 4 of the I believe it's 4 of the Napoleonic 20 battles in a nice 2-inch box with mounted maps and all that stuff. So it's a nice presentation. That's right. He's like Bob and Doug McKenzie. Do you guys have like statues up there of Bob and Doug McKenzie by any chance?
Yeah.
I bet you do.
And our gods are Geddy Lee, and Alex Lifeson, and the dead guy.
What about like Mario Lemieux?
I know he's a friend of ours. He lives across the street.
He does? Well, I figured you guys. There are only like 12 people living in Canada after all.
I'm telling you, if you come to Montreal, you'll see so many hockey players, and people are. Well, they're not that they're unfazed, but it's not like crazy. It's like, hey, hi, Mario, and hi, Wayne, how are you?
I am, in fact, talking about the 1914 games from Mike Resch GMT. But there is confusion over that because there's a Lille expansion for Bloody April, and that's the one that GMT's been trying to get rid of for years. And there's a Lille expansion for 1914, Offensive à Outrance, and it's much harder to find.
Wait, Artie, hold on. I got a bone to pick here.
Oh dear. What do you got against Rush?
I got nothing against Rush.
Okay, next you're going to start talking trash about Neil Young, and we're going to have to come.
No. Listen to me, Will. Listen to me. I'm just going to say two words, and Rush bow down to this person. Okay, Joni Mitchell. Enough said.
I didn't even hear anything about Neil Young here, Dan.
I didn't say anything about Neil Young. I said Joni
Why not?
Mitchell.
He's Canadian.
Listen.
How can you people not know about Neil Young in Canada?
Come on.
What are you, communists? And yeah, I was going to mention this too. William Shatner, one of the finest actors ever to come out of Canada.
Finest.
The very finest.
Come on, Will
I'm
GM
telling
for
you.
food. If I ever see you on the street,
telling you. He's
now
the
you better not be walking on the sidewalk because I'll run you down.
The Canadian Christopher Walken. Come on. Let's get with the program.
Jesus, Shatner's the poorest actor I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, Leonard Cohen, Michael, yeah, all these Canadians, right?
Joni Mitchell.
Is Joni Mitchell Canadian?
Who?
Joni Mitchell.
Yes, from Saskatoon.
Saskatoon? Is that like, do they drink sassafras in Saskatoon? Which is in Saskatchewan. Holy Jesus. Off the fucking hook here, folks.
Is that what I said?
You did say Saskatoon. Twice, in fact.
And look at Carl, Minu Reeves. I'm going to punch him in the face.
I'll be honest, I didn't know Joni Mitchell was Canadian.
Come on, what's the matter with you?
Then again, I've never particularly liked Joni Mitchell, so
You're
there you
crazy.
Go. I'm aware that a lot of people consider her a cultural touchstone.
She's probably the 20th century's greatest songwriter, for God's sake.
Oh.
Yeah. What are you going to say, Bob Dylan? Give me a break.
I'll take Carole King.
Joni Mitchell, my friend. All these people bowed down to Joni.
Okay, I mean, lots of people like her. I'm aware of that. I might be behind the curve on that.
I'm a fan of Carole King. I'm a fan of everybody. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know of what I talk of.
I mean, we haven't even started talking about the very greatest songwriter in rock and roll history here either.
Look, we even have Gordon Lightfoot, and Gordon Lightfoot used to adore Joni.
Yeah, Gordon Lightfoot is not exactly top 10 material, I got to tell you, Dan.
What?
I'm just saying. He's got probably 3 good songs, actually. But the only one you really want to listen to is that one about the boat that sank.
Oh, my God.
I mean, it's a fine song. Don't get me wrong.
Look. Fucko. Don't mess with me.
Joni Mitchell. Oh my God.
Don't mess with me.
Why he's correct? Yeah, I don't know who any of these people are. Minnie Pearl. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry about that. I never saw the appeal there. I gotta tell you. There you go. Funny you could probably make a case for great songwriting skills on the part of
Hey, Gordon Lightfoot.
yeah, but
big guy. Look at that.
Yeah, but second only to Alanis Morissette. I'm just saying. Doesn't hold a candle to the greatest songwriter of the rock and roll generation.
Which is?
Neil Diamond. Obviously. Come on.
Wow.
I'm just saying, all the good songs by the Monkees, Neil Diamond wrote them.
You know what I'm saying? Shania Twain.
I mean, what about? I'll take me some Jim Croce too, over Joni Mitchell.
Canadian. No, no.
That's your problem.
No.
The only reason Jim Croce's not more famous is because he died.
He's dead.
Well,
no.
Right. Exactly.
No. Hey, who's the musician here?
You know what, Dan? Musicians can be equally mistaken to normal people.
Jesus Christ.
I'm just saying. We're making Dan mad tonight, folks.
I'm hitting the bottle,
Oh, yeah,
man.
that's true. You better after this. You should hit the bottle and pour it out to the memory of Neil Young, who's still alive, but he'll appreciate it.
Look, Neil Young plays on Joni Mitchell's album Blue. Okay.
Well, Joni Mitchell's probably played on Neil Young's album too.
No.
Oh, I bet.
No, I know.
Because nobody wants to hear Joni Mitchell.
Ah, Jesus Christ.
Oh, I'd rather listen to John Tesh.
Oh my God.
Smooth jazz.
I can't take any more of this.
Next on Sirius
We're
Satellite
past our time
Radio,
already.
3 more hours of smooth jazz featuring John Tesh. I'd rather be euthanized.
Hey.
Big move. Big win.
The moose is loose.
Big moves. Big win.
The moose is loose.